This is Ed in San Diego, and welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. Our special guest today is Dr. David Weiss, and he's in Toronto. Hello, Dr. David. Welcome.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having this program.
You have a new graphic and a new study that you're implementing now publicly called Clear Leadership Coaching. That's CLEAR, and each of those means something really important, and we're going to do a deep dive on that. So first of all, Dr. David Weiss, would you please go a little bit deeper than I just did and self-intro, and if you have a recent book you want to hold up also, that's okay too.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here and to be talking about something that I've got a lot of passion for. One of the challenges of coaching when you work as a coach, so I am a certified coach with the International Coaching Federation, a life and wellness coach, and I run my own consulting firm, Weiss International, that focuses on coaching and innovation. One of the challenges when you work internally within organizations is everything that I do as an external coach, which is usually got a cadence, it's got a certain kind of process. We tend to meet periodically at scheduled times, often for an hour, and so it has a certain kind of rhythm to it. When you're an internal people manager, that's not the way it works at all. It works more sporadically. You have a moment and you want to bring something up, or an employee wants to talk to you about something they're anxious about, or given COVID, we're talking about the merger of the personal and the work life. And we need to have models and frameworks that can help our people managers deal effectively with coaching in 10 to 15 minutes to have a meaningful outcome that empowers the employee rather than being the leader telling the employee what to do. And
So
that's what clear leadership coaching is.
Yeah, so I'd like to read something here. Coaching, you're advising managers to embrace coaching as a core leadership skill, right?
Absolutely.
And a practice. Now, you're not talking about water cooler encounters. You're talking about having a private conversation, right?
Yeah, there obviously is coachable moments right by the water cooler. So it's not either or, it's really an and also. But the way that a person works as a people manager, and in that moment where they're having a one-to-one conversation, that's actually where the clear leadership coaching framework comes in handy. So, for example, clear stands for 5 words. The first word is context. And what context means is that every leader should be coaching, understanding that context is subjective, that we may have gone through the same COVID experience, but you've experienced it in your way, I experienced it my way. We had an organizational change, you experienced it your way, I experienced it my way. So you need to appreciate the context the other person is in. The L stands for listening, and listening is crucial throughout, but it really becomes important at the beginning. The mistake many leaders make is that when they start off in this discussion, they start talking too much, and they tell the person what they should be doing or what they observed, and even giving
about listening.
Yeah, it's really all about listening. Absolutely. And it's actually asking what's on your mind. How can I help? And the E stands for empathy, where you really need to not just listen to the person, but asking really good questions to get them to think it through in another way. And the A means action. And how do you actually move them to action without telling them what to do, but empowering them so that they can take the small steps that are needed? And the R stands for respect, because you really need to respect throughout the entire process. So this has been working really, really well. And I've been speaking about it globally as we're implementing this with many different organizations.
That's really exciting. So one of the things that I took away from your graphic, and I'd like you to hold that up, is slow is fast.
Right.
So that talks about the idea of, in a calm way, asking the employee to define what may be upsetting them, right? And to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the differences between planning meetings and coaching is that coaching is very emotional. And we know with emotions, people move very slowly. So we should set our expectations much, much smaller. I call it doing small steps. When you get to that action phase where a lot of people struggle, how do I empower someone to take action? It's going to be much easier to empower someone to take action if you ask a question, what might be a small step that you could take in the next week that might actually give you a step forward? I don't know if you, during COVID, whether you experienced this, but you know, people were lying on their couch, not getting up, and then someone would come up to you and say, "Can you at least stand up?" and the assumption is, if I could get you to stand up, the probability is you might take a second step. So what is that small step, that small domino that trips the next domino, that trips the other, that if you ask for it, someone would say, yeah, I think I could do a smaller step. And then they'll generate the self momentum to actually achieve something even greater.
So one of the things that I read this morning in prep for this is how you ask questions without being intrusive or offensive, to try to relax your employee. I've got this all written down here. Would it be okay if I offered a suggestion?
Mhm. Mhm.
That struck me as being really key, and sort of I wouldn't call it submissive, but I mean you're asking for leadership from the employee.
Very much so. And I include that kind of question in the respect throughout. Respect shows up as acknowledging, and many people, even professional coaches, are not that good at acknowledging someone when they do something well. But the point you're making is the respect throughout means that you're not going to tell them what to do. And even if you have an idea, what I'm asking you to do is to say, I wonder if it's okay if I can offer a suggestion. And the person says yes. And then you offer the suggestion. But even after you offer the suggestion, I want you to say something that gives permission to the other person to do it or not, that it doesn't come across like I just told you what you must do. We call it POP, P-O-P. So it's the first question is, you know, asking permission. The O stands for what's the option you're considering. And then the P stands for partnering, where it's their option and they own it to make the choice of whether to do it or not. And it'll make a massive difference for them to walk away feeling empowered rather than feeling like you're telling me what to do.
And one other thing that I found curious is when the way you use those words, I am curious about what else might be possible, meaning you're welcoming them to not stop, but to continue talking.
Very much so, you know, and the notion of you being curious versus you being declarative changes the tone of the conversation. There are moments for a people manager to do performance management where you're going to say what you want the person to do. In coaching, this is the moment for you to actually attuning to the other person and really listening to what the other person is saying and not taking over, and really trying to get into their mindset and acknowledge it and respect it throughout. So I'm curious, or you know, questions like, what does that really mean to you? An employee says, you know, I'm anxious about that. Well, your understanding of what anxious means might be different than the employees. So ask the question, what does anxious mean to you? And you'll get a response where I kind of call it relayering the onion, where the employee might say something, and then you're helping them by questioning to put another layer around it, another layer around it. You know, what might be another possibility that you can consider in that situation, which all of a sudden generates a thought about, well, maybe I can try something different, where you didn't say it, but they found it themselves.
Interesting, isn't it? Now, in the world today, it's hybrid, right? And a lot of people are in virtual, just like you and I are right now, 3,000 miles apart. So is it different? Is it harder for you to do this when you're on Zoom?
Well, my experience is that it's not. And in fact, it's very interesting. I'm writing about that topic right now, that for even professional coaches like myself, my reach because of COVID
Right.
has now gone global,
Right.
where before, it tended to be local because people would want to see you in person. But one of the benefits that emerged from COVID was a profound accelerator of people using Zoom
Right.
and using Teams. People who said, I would never consider myself technologically capable, everyone's doing it. And so I'm able to coach, and the level of depth we can get to is the same. But interestingly enough, the the times that people get coaching are far more flexible to their needs. People are getting early morning, and they're more private in many respects because it's online and they don't see me coming to their office. So it has a number of significant benefits. Of course, there may be some disadvantages.
Yeah.
And when a people manager does it, it's the same thing. The people manager who walks into an employee's office, or an employee who walks into a manager's office, everybody watches and notices that. This way it's being done, and there's far more respect throughout.
Right. Confidential and no stigma.
It absolutely will benefit that process.
We have about 5 minutes left this brief encounter here today, but I want you to just summarize again for the audience who's all over the world for this show. When the employee comes to you and says, I got a problem, as opposed to a scheduled time and place. It's different,
Yeah,
doesn't
so
it?
so in fact, I find that the coaching situations that the people manager experiences is one of two kinds. The people manager will experience coaching that is employee initiated, where the employee has an issue, I need to talk to you, or where the manager initiates it, where they say, I noticed you had a yelling match with another employee. In both situations, I want you to be thinking about the context, listening, demonstrating that empathy, get a small step action, and respect throughout, and do the leadership model of clear leadership coaching. When it's a clear cadence, I follow a similar kind of methodology, but it gets expanded significantly, and there's a different kind of immediacy, which generates a very important benefit for the clients. But we need to give attention to those people managers who are going to have that 10 to 15-minute discussion so that they can do that effectively. And it is different, but they both work very well in partnership with each other.
So I want to just sum up now with you, and I'd like you to sum up with me, and about the clear, each letter, clear leadership coaching. I'm reading this: context, listen, empathy, action, respect. Would you like to just do a quick bullet point thing on each of those, like context?
Well, context, the notion is that I need you to think about context as subjective. Psychological safety becomes a very important part in context. How comfortable will people be speaking up? So, for example, if someone feels it's not safe, they may come to you very late. While if someone feels it's safer to speak up, they may come to you when the problem isn't that severe. So context is going to be crucial. Listening, you really need to ask what's on your mind, how can I help, and let the employee define the issue. Empathy is all about questioning. I love what questions. What does X mean to you? What does that message mean to you? Looking for patterns, and not asking for the specific, closed-ended question, the times where you say, did you do this? And you're not a prosecutor
Yeah,
in coaching.
right, right.
And then the action is ask for small steps and ask for takeaways, and go away from imagining fast changes and long, elaborate processes. And finally, the respect throughout. Ask the person if it's okay to offer suggestion, and acknowledge the person, and don't disempower them by telling them what to do. Always ask. The end state of coaching is that they need to own it. It needs to be theirs, and they will then create their own momentum. to continue to evolve as they need to in that situation.
Yeah, thank you. Finally, can I ask, how important is the aspect or the culture surrounding the words, how can I help?
Absolutely. So many times what occurs is that a people manager will hear the situation and then they'll respond to the part that they want to talk about. But that's not the part that the employee wants to talk about. So asking the question, how can I help, ends up allowing the employee to own the conversation and shape it to where they really want you to comment, rather than you picking the one that you wanted to focus on. The coaching is all about the employee. It's not about the people manager. Give up that kind of ownership to them, and you will see that it'll actually generate much better outcomes for you and for the employee.
Thank you, Dr. David Weiss. That's W-E-I-S-S, Dr. David Weiss, Weiss International.
And actually, I just came out with a new article called Clear Leadership Coaching, and it's on my firm's website at www.weissinternational, W-E-I-S-S international.ca for Canada. And if you go to the free articles tab, you can just click on where the first one where it says leadership. There's about 50 of my articles there, and you can download Clear Leadership Coaching, and it's free. It's on the house, so enjoy it.
Have a great day. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so
Weiss.
much. A real pleasure chatting with you again. Bye-bye.
Talk to you again. Bye-bye. Thank you. This is Ed in San Diego signing off. Thank you.